Good morning everybody, welcome back to the channel. Those who have not subscribed, please do subscribe. Please do subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon so that next time when I upload the video, you get the notification. Welcome back. Today is something else review, which I'm going to do it, which I generally do it. I'm going to review a lens kit which comes from the Nikon camera as a lens kit, but unfortunately when I purchased the camera I was not given. So that's the reason yesterday I had to purchase the lens, and this is 1855 lens. 1855 is a basic lens kit which comes along with the camera, but when I purchased along with the 35mm lens, which is again a wonderful piece for the machine. Now talking about this one 1855 lens, this lens is the Nikon DX 1855. Let it get zoomed. Yes, 1855 with 0.2 m to 0.9 ft feet, and diameter is 52 is the diameter. Now talking about the lens, it is the AFS Nikon 1855mm 1 is to 3.5 to 5.5 G. So 3.5 to 5.5 G is what's the difference. 3.5 is at 18 mm wide angle and 55, and at 55 mm it is 5.6 G. This lens is a wonderful machine when it comes to sharpness and resolution. So I do have a resolution chart which I am going to talk about with, and I do have a sharpness chart also. So let's go. This lens, the resolution of this 18 mm means 18 mm wide lens, and the aperture is 2.2155.5, which is a fantastic one because the aperture setting in this lens is the best in its class, because the price tag you don't get any other lens. Now talking about the resolution of this lens, because as you all know this is 1855, so now at 18 mm the lens is around 2155.5. that is fantastic. The resolution, I'm only talking about the aperture resolution, and at 24 mm it is 2167 aperture, which is wide open again. At 35 mm it's 2054.55 mm, and at 55 mm which is 992, which is exactly what is required in this lens, because the price tag what you pay is nothing. It's around 6,700 rupees on the market. So what I'll do is right now, because since I'm using a 35 mm lens, I'll go and put this lens over there so that you guys can talk with me on this 18 mm lens and check the resolution out over there. So let's do it. Let's just install the 18 mm lens. Welcome back. I guess you can feel the lens now. This is a 18 mm wide lens. The earlier one which I was using it's a 35 mm lens. Now let's talk about the pros and cons. The cons are not really that cons, because the price, again once again I'm exaggerating on the price, because the price you pay, the cons are nothing, the pros are more. So now when I'm talking about cons, the first thing is that the lens, this 18 mm lens, has a bit flare problem. So better when your flare problem, in the sense when you're shooting on light, when you're shooting on sunlight, the lens might flare up. So when I would suggest, when you're using this lens, this lens, and shooting it out, you should better use a hood, which is a rubber hood, which you get it from many of the retail shops who sells cameras and the camera accessories. I guess preferably a 52 mm rubber hood would be sufficient for that, and it is not that expensive. It might come around $5 to $7. Now talking about this one, the second one is that it won't give you a nice background. When I'm talking about the nice background, see now when I'm talking about the nice background, maybe I'm talking about the background which is at my back. I guess you guys can see a carom board over there. So now when I'm talking about the background, this background won't give you a decent background. The reason being, the sharpness of the lens, the wideness of the lens is only focusing the object. Now the object is me, the background might get a bit blur. So that's the reason, and even as the lens aperture is not that great. the lens aperture is not that great. So that's the reason when I'm talking about a background, a nice decent background, maybe a bit expensive lenses like 35mm or 50mm or 55mm might give you a good background effect. And now the next point is that the outside of this lens actually keeps on rotating. The reason it rotates because it focuses the object. Now there are two kind of focus now in different lenses. Now this lens, the AFS DX Nikon 1855, actually it has got external focus. So that's the reason maybe on my videos or many of the videos you would have watched in YouTube, you get a noise that keeps on focusing. Now there are other lenses, a bit expensive lenses, they have internal focuses like the 35mm lens, which has got internal focus. So the exterior of the lens doesn't rotate. The internal there's a motor inside which rotates. So that's the reason maybe most of the videos will not give this noise. Now that's really not a very, I would say, a very bad point. These all points are manageable when it comes to money. And the fourth point which I felt is that the short travel on focus, so you can do it manually. So the short travel of the focus, in the sense when you are focusing, when you're doing on a manual focus, when you're rotating the lens, the travel is actually a bit short. You can only do a half portion, and when I'm talking about other lenses, the travel might be a more. So these are the points which I felt a con, but I'm not sure, I'm not suggesting you guys to take my points and then judge the lens. The lens is a wonderful at its price point, and generally it comes along with the kit. So whenever you're buying a Nikon camera, it comes along with the kit. But for me, as I said, I didn't take that kit. I have reduce that kit and purchase a 35mm which I required at that point of time. Now talking about the plus point, the pros about this lens is that it actually has got a 0.9 feet it can focus, which is very close. Now talking about focus, the focus, like when I'm focusing it is actually my distance, and this distance is 0.9 feet. So which actually most of the expensive lenses will not give you. First of all, these kind of lenses 35mm, these doesn't have got a focus. You have to use, even the manual focus is not there because these are a portrait lens. Number two, the distortion is 2.2 to 2.7%, which is excellent even nowadays, because the distortion level is 2.2 and 2.7% is actually negligible. And nowadays when we have so many good softwares to edit, we can do auto correction, obviously. So this is again not a very bad thing, but I would suggest, yes, the distortion level is very less in this lens. Now particularly when I talk about this VR lens, the lens which I am using is a VR lens. The VR lens has got an image stabilization which is at the side. The image stabilization is an excellent equipment that this lens offers, and it will allow you to shoot at 1/10 of a second. So 1/10 of a second is excellent in its own class. And the next point which I feel is the weight of the lens. The weight of this lens which I'm using it, the weight of the lens is not that it is fantastic. And when you're mounting on that camera, when I'm using my camera is Canon D5300, when I mount and vlog, I don't feel the weight, because when you vlog, your hand gets, or when you're doing a video recording, you have to hold the camera like this. So the weight is very important. So these are the pros and cons which I wanted to share with you. Now the last pro is that, once again, it's the pricing. The pricing you pay, the cons are actually nothing. So I would suggest this lens, you should keep on using it, because it gives a 18mm wide and 55mm short cycle. Now let me talk about 5 tips where you can do a great shooting, great recording, great picturization with this lens. So the number one is the aperture. The aperture actually it runs from 3.5 to 5.6. This is actually the widest aperture you get in your lens. The number 2 point, in the 18mm, when you are running, when you're shooting or when you're recording, when it's a 18mm, you get a 3.5 aperture and a focal length, sorry. And when you are on a 55mm, you get 5.6 focal length, which is really excellent in the price point you're paying. Number 2 is that when you are shooting, when you are photographing, keep the lens or keep the camera a bit steady, because image stabilization, at times if you forget to do it, maybe when you are shooting, the video might come a bit shaky. So vibration stability or the vibration reduction is a bit required. Another long and the next point is that at long focal length in 55mm, it has the most widest focal length, which is again an excellent point. The next is that the focal length at 18mm is the best, because an 18mm, see the whiteness which I am getting on this lens. The whiteness I am getting on the lens. Obviously, when you are using a lower mm, maybe when you are using a 10mm and all, definitely the wide angle are more, but 18mm is not a bad one. Now when I am talking about the last is that micro photography. You can do a micro photography on this, because when you're focusing, when you want to shoot some object, take some object and come very close, micro photography, the pixel won't break. So here comes all the good things about the camera, about the lens and the camera which I'm using, obviously. So I hope you like this video useful, and if you like this video, please don't forget to give this video a like and do subscribe to my channel. With this said, Raj signing off. Do take care. God bless you. Bye bye. I'll see you soon on the next video. Until then, take care and have a happy Saturday. Bye bye.